Everyone always talks about how they want their team to run the ball. But how do football teams actually run the football? We're going to go over all of the basic run concepts to help teach you a bit more about the run game and different run concepts that teams run in today's debut episode of the Football 101 Classroom over here at Best Available. Thank you for watching today's episode. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and give us a follow on socials at Best Available YT. A huge thank you to all of our members as always. It does a lot to help the channel. It's just $2.99 a month. Not only are you supporting us, but you're getting full access to my NFL Draft Big Board, which is constantly being updated throughout the season. We're already at 30 graded players. We've talked about the quarterbacks and running backs on this channel. Next week is wide receivers. If you want an early look at that and then just the full notes, again, highly encourage you to check that out. But let's go ahead and dive into this run concepts video. This is our debut of the classroom, and I wanted to do this using real world examples. So we're actually going to go through some of the biggest names at running back and show some examples of some run plays, just to give you a feel of what it's supposed to look like. Maybe sometimes it's not always what they're supposed to look like, and just a fair warning, there are so many variations off these concepts. There's so many different ways you can run them. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible to explain it, but I hope you enjoy this. Let me know in the comments what you think, what other potential classroom video ideas you guys might want to see in the future, because it's summer, baby. We got to find some stuff to talk about, and I'm really excited about this series. As well as if you have friends or loved ones that want to see more stuff like this, or you want to make sure that they can learn more about football, that they're interested in learning more about the game, send this channel over their way. There's two different blocking schemes in football. Generally, it is zone blocking schemes and gap blocking schemes. Zone is a bit more free form, but it's, instead of taking a specific player, a specific gap, if you're a blocker, you're taking one step and you're just going off of that based on, who's entering your area of space. If there's no one there, do you climb? Sometimes you combo block and climb to the second level to linebackers. This is just in very much generality. Zone also allows for running backs, instead of just following a specific blocker and then going north-south, they're just kind of playing off their reads, and we'll get into how you're reading this in a minute. Not every play is perfect too. I tried to show some plays where some funkier things happen, so not only are we going to talk about the basics of these run concepts, but every once in a while we'll get a little wrinkle in here that we can talk about as well. But we're going to start with inside zone. It is the most basic play at all three levels, or every level of football. We're just going to run inside between the tackles. We're going to have a zone run where everyone steps in the direction of the play. Typically, a good play on this is 4, 5, 6 yards. Because of the way it's blocked up and run between the tackles, you're not going to usually see giant explosive home run hitting plays out of this. This is pretty straightforward. We're going to run inside. Running back's aiming point is the play side leg of the center, so here, and then we adjust off of that. Sorry, that's probably a little too generous, but our aiming point is right here. For the lineman, it's pretty straightforward. These four are all just taking a step play side, right? We're play, and we're reading off there. This backside guy is a little different in this situation with the way he's playing it. He's just going to backside seal. So he's just going to kind of turn a little, make sure no one on the backside is pursuing, basically wall them off so that they can't just come across the formation, fly down, make a play in the backfield. So based on these steps, these guys are already thinking pre-snap how this is going to work. They're probably communicating pre-snap. There's typically some kinds of terminology. It's different for every team, but they could be saying stuff like sift, ace. They could be saying stuff like hey, we got a double team coming up based on this alignment, or hey, I'm going to climb to the second level. So typically they know pretty well, unless someone slants drastically, how they're going to handle this. So based on this run scheme, when we take a step, it's pretty obvious this guard's going to block off this defensive tackle. This guard's going to block off this defensive tackle. This tackle is going to seal off this edge. I left the center for last because we have the seal back here. The center has no one when he steps here in his gap. If he's stepping all the way to this defensive tackle, it's not really going to do much for this run play. Instead, he's got that step, and he's going to immediately climb to the linebacker. It's going to naturally create, and I'm sure the whole offense is seeing this, if things go well, we might have a legit rushing lane here, and if we can seal off this linebacker, it's probably right here. This is what we want on inside zone, so this is great. As we roll this, I can go through the read of the running back. So you can see he's taking those steps, play side. He's keeping an eye on the center climbing. Typically what we're doing with inside zone or zone running schemes is called a triangle read, where we're initially focusing on a defensive tackle. Ideally, it would be here. We're going to talk about that wrinkle in a second. Then we're going play side linebacker. We don't really have one here. We have, a box defender. We'll call it this here for now. And then after the play side linebacker, another linebacker. It's supposed to look kind of like a triangle, right? Where you're trying to read based off of what you're seeing. So as we roll this, he's initially probably trying to look at this D tackle. This block and this defensive tackle end up just getting in the way. And that's fine on zone blocking. Again, it's not really a uniform run direction. We're kind of just feeling the flow off linebackers. It's a little bit more jazz in this instance. So with 93 just collapsing, Cook's like, perfect. I can read off of that. So he's flying inside. I'm just going to break off of that, on the other direction. And then you can see where his eyes immediately go. He goes, okay, defensive tackle's taken care of. Let me get to the second level of that triangle read, right? That's going to be this linebacker right here. Okay, perfect. This linebacker is engaged by the center. Center does a good job. So after breaking here, I'm going to break here, and then I'm going to break back in based off how that linebacker block is happening. So break off that, and then you're seeing this block. We'll get to it in a second. This is a little bit of a just good effort play from someone else, and then he's going to get north-south. And if you just watch his read there, tackle, linebacker, he's just breaking off those blocks based on how he's feeling the play develop, and that's what zone is all about. Now, you're going to see on the left side of the screen, I know the yellow is not really showing well on this camera based on the light on the field, but you can see the arm of that tight end right there. He's going to do something called a push crack. Kind of technically looks like a slant, and then we're just trying to get to a defender and wall them off, and this is great effort here. Watch him just hustle on this play to wall off number 6. Not always going to be, a play that gets noticed, but on a situation like this is why you want to give max effort. You never know when this block is going to be important. He cracks here, seals this off. Once this is, developed, suddenly he has walled off and created another seal for James Cook, a third defender sealed off that Cook can read and break off of and get north-south. We don't usually talk about this on an inside zone concept, but I love my skill players blocking. Thought they did a great job there. That's the little wrinkle we're going to talk about. Couple of these plays and concepts, you'll see little wrinkles that are added that I wanted to still notice and appreciate. But this is inside zone. It's very standard. You've seen this play a million times before, even if you didn't realize it. Let's go ahead and move on to a variation of inside zone. This is split zone, which is a little similar, very similar to inside zone with one key difference. We're inside zone, we're trying to block, we're trying to take those steps on this play. Last time, if we're going off examples, we would have been using this backside tackle to seal off here, right? Instead, what we're going to do is we're actually going to ignore this end man for now, and everyone's going to take their steps, ignore him. So this guy's going to sift up to the second level. You can see here, this is going to be probably a better example of a combo block where we're going to take this guy's going to try and take this defensive tackle. This center is going to try and still climb, but he's going to get a hand and control this defensive tackle and just help generate a little bit more push. We're going to do the same here. Take this tackle, take a little bit of a step and climb. We're talking about this man being left unblocked, right? Not totally. What we're going to do is use this tight end. This is the split in the split zone, or you can call it a smack, or whatever you want to call it. He's going to come across the formation and kick out this guy. And what this does naturally is, as you'll see it, as we sift up here, block all of this, and get here, it's going to create a natural cutback lane where we're going to have a cutback here if we read it. So if things aren't going well, play side for Jonathan Taylor, we can cut it back, and it has a natural cutback lane. I really like split zone, especially when you have a running back that likes to cut back or has really good vision for that. This can be a really nice play, and I think this is blocked up pretty masterfully. So let's go ahead and get it rolling, and you can watch, pay attention to 91 on the left side of the screen. Gets unblocked here, right? So nice job working on this combo here. We're not really working on a combo here. He's just trying to work this way instead. But this is allowing this unblocked defender. This unblocked defender is allowing our tackle to get up to the linebacker. We got this tight end coming across the formation. Still working play side leg of the center for the running back, because we don't want to be overly eager on this cut back, because the linebackers are really watching the running back's movement. If he gets too early on this, it's going to mess up this block right here. It's going to give him a free path. It's just going to make this all jumbled. So as we keep rolling it, getting climbing, this is good. Like, we don't have to climb to him right away. We really want to control the point or the line of scrimmage, doing a nice job of that with these blocks. And initially we talked about the center probably climbing to get this linebacker. Based on the way this defensive tackle slanted, you really engage with the center. It allows the guard, and that's the beauty of zone, is like, okay, because of my steps and the way this is developing, I don't need to be the guy that blocks this defender. Instead, the guard will climb to the linebacker. And then we've got the conflict here with the unblocked defender. And then a nice job by the right tackle to sift. And then suddenly, man, perfect seal. Didn't go according to plan on this side or on the right side of the screen. This is executed beautifully. We adjusted here, and I mean, this, you don't get a bigger rushing lane than this in the NFL, man. Like, this is wide ass open. Take advantage of it. Clean shot to Taylor, but I mean, that's like the parting of the Red Sea. Now watch it all develop. You understand how this works now, right? Inside zone blocking concepts. We're trying to climb to the second level. We're going to climb. This is the big one. Pay attention to the right tackle climbing to the linebacker, and then how we use this tight end to come across to create that cutback. Watch it develop in real time. See that cutback develop. Nice seal. All of a sudden, we have that wide open. I really like split zone. It's one of my favorite run concepts when you have a patient running back with good vision and then burst. It can be a really successful play for you when it's blocked up correctly. Moving on to outside zone, fairly similar to inside zone, but we're, as blockers, taking much wider steps. We're taking horizontal steps, focusing on what we call reach blocks, where we're trying to get to landmarks and then seal off. So get here and seal off. So for example, in front of Matt Milano, there's another defensive lineman. We want to get to his outside shoulder and wall him off. That's the idea here. So for the center, we want to try and reach around this nose that's in the gap opposite of us, and then just seal him off and control it. So these are all much harder blocks. You need explosiveness. It can be really tricky for offensive linemen because they have to cover way more ground horizontally to get there. But the purpose of this is to try and get these linebackers into conflict much more. Not only do they have to move laterally and adjust to the line moving, but they also have to fill. So this can be tough angles, and it gives running backs more options. As a running back, your path is now right on the butt of the end man, so we're taking much wider steps here. But we can break this off at any time. We want to be patient with it. We're still sticking with that triangle read, so in an instance like this, it's like D tackle, play side linebacker. We're reading how these guys are flowing and adjusting off of it. You got to stay patient and let these linebackers be wrong on this play. We're trying to get horizontal to make them overcommit. So for example, if this guy tries to flow a gap, we can bounce outside and then work off this linebacker. If he tries to over scrape and tries to get too far laterally, we can cut inside off of that. So we really want to make this really stressful for these linebackers. And boy, does Derrick Henry make that happen a lot on outside zone. He can be really dangerous. So you can see immediately, look how much different, wider those steps are than the inside zone we've been talking about. We roll it. You can see those wide steps, trying to seal guys, trying to reach guys. You can notice, too, after Hunter Henry gets not Hunter Henry. I hope I didn't say that earlier. I'm sure I did. Your brain's mush sometimes. Derrick Henry. You can see those initial wide steps here, but then he's immediately reading, hey, this defensive tackle is really getting over here. I think I need to play this a little slower and see how this develops. So you can see he turns his shoulders back a little bit more square. He's like, do I break off of this? And then he's like, maybe not. We've got some dominant defenders over here. They're kind of winning on this side. Still haven't gotten this linebacker to commit, but he stays a little patient with it, which I really appreciate. Don't always need to commit right away. And by being hesitant here, the linebacker is watching him. So now all of a sudden, instead of flowing over, this linebacker is hesitated. He's stopped, and that's exactly what Henry wants. It's allowing his offensive lineman to climb to the second level and engage with this linebacker. So now all of a sudden he's like, perfect. I slowed down enough. This guy poked his head the other way too. Perfect. I've let this develop. I've found my gap. This linebacker's engaged. I'm going to break down on it. And that's kind of the beauty of outside zone. It gives running backs a bit more time, especially if they have the speed to always be a threat to bounce outside, where they can play it a bit more patient and let the blocks develop before committing to this hole. Stays skinny, gets through the hole. We've climbed to a third level defender at this point. We've got a blocker in space who's going to read, who's going to now block it. And we have a seal here. If we can break a tackle here, which, shocker, Derrick Henry does, now we're off to the races for a big, big run. Outside zones, when blocked up correctly with a running back who's patient and has that burst and contact balance, these can generally be more explosive, dangerous plays than inside zone. High risk, high reward, though, too, because sometimes this can go really wrong. Sometimes a defensive lineman can get immediate penetration. A linebacker can fill correctly. The running back can get caught hesitating, and he's way too deep when he gets the ball. Inside zone, typically you have a head of steam north-south, pretty close to the line of scrimmage. Takes some time to get north-south on an outside zone. So longer developing play. A lot can go wrong, but when it goes right, man, and you can let those blocks develop. Oh, I could have shown an outside zone, more standard. We'll see, cuts up this gap or this gap. But I did like this one just to show you what it looks like when you can stay patient and let blocks develop, because this looks like it could have gone poorly at first. It looks like it's pretty well handled. We're reaching okay on Milano here. But, everything else, guys are controlling their gaps really well. It's that patience that helps the rest of the block set up, and then we get a big play out of it. So those are our zone running concepts. Now we're going to go to gap scheme, and we're going to start with one that is technically gap scheme, but gets so often confused with inside zone, to the point that it becomes a meme at times. It is duo running. Duo is just double teams at the line of scrimmage, and it can sometimes look really similar to inside zone, but the steps are way different. On inside zone versus duo, inside zone we talked about everyone's taking these general steps in one direction, right? In duo, what we're focusing on is just amplifying as many double teams as possible at the line of scrimmage. So you're going to see the steps are different because everyone is focusing on double teams here. Double team, double team, double team, double team. We're going to leave this guy alone on this particular concept, and then Cooper Kupp's just going to go out in space and block someone in space. But we want to focus on those double teams, and that's kind of why it's a gap scheme concept, is we're not all running the same way. We're going in different directions. We're focusing on specific gaps to create that. The whole purpose of this is to create push off the line of scrimmage, reset it a couple yards downfield. These double teams will eventually turn into second level blocks, and it's just a feel thing of based on who's more effectively controlling this double team, the other guy can then go off and seal off a linebacker. And typically these duo runs will also cause the linebackers to fill a little closer, makes it a little bit easier for us to pick those up. So we've got this duo run. You can see it's pretty clearly duo at the point of the snap. Look at those steps. All of a sudden, 3 different double teams right here. The intentional steps towards these double teams. That is the very key difference between this and inside zone. Again, the initial steps will show you kind of cheat when you're telling inside zone or duo. Now, it's not always pretty. Sometimes it can look a little jumbled. It can look a little different. It's hard to tell. But when you're going through this, this is about as textbook of a duo run as you're going to get. And it can be really tempting for these linebackers because they see the running back getting the ball. They see all of this space. They get tempted. They're going to cheat down. You can see how quickly they cheat down. I talked about it, how much easier it makes these jobs. Like, suddenly we've sealed off here. Like, Barner's controlling this one. Zabel's controlling this on the double teams, which allows these 2 guys to climb to the linebackers. This guy's just kind of in the way, and we've created a natural seal here, so we'll block up both these off this double team. This is kind of blocked up perfectly as far as the zone run goes. And once those double teams happen, it really does give the running back a little bit more vision as far as decisions to make. Another key thing under center you'll see a lot with duo is this like reverse pivot by the quarterback. So instead of just going straight back with the ball over here and bring it down to the running back, they'll get a little tricky with it, and they'll flip and then give the handoff around here. Just another kind of indication some teams like to do with duo. But for the running back, it gives them plenty of time to let these blocks develop and then figure out what hole they want to be in. And Walker was awfully good at that last season, so he's going to feel it. Still staying patient, and then he feels that hole, sneaks through, gets skinny, and then just finishes that run for a nice 10, 14-yard gain, something like that. But I appreciate the patience to let these double teams develop. It's a fun run. I really like duo, especially when you have, these bigger fronts up front. You can bring some tight ends in, especially with the rise in the NFL with 12, 13 personnel or 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends on the field. You can create a lot of conflict with these double teams. And it's so hard for these linebackers to stay disciplined on it. You can see because they see all that space. They really want to fill, but it just makes the duo block job much easier for the guy that doesn't end up containing that initial point of attack. Really fun play. I hope this is helpful. You'll start to pay more attention to it as you see inside runs. You can see those initial double team conflicts in those steps. You'll start to understand the difference between inside zone and duo. As a former fullback, we're going to talk about my favorite run play, and that is power. There are a lot of different variations in power, especially now with fullbacks being a thing of the past. The fact I found a play of I formation with the fullback in the backfield just warmed my heart. But there are all so many different ways you can run power. But the traditional way you're doing it, or typically, is you're pulling a backside guard into a level, and then you're kicking out an end man. We can't see the end man now. He is to the left of the screen, off screen. We're typically kicking that guy out with a fullback, a tight end, sometimes an extra, a puller. But in this situation, we have a traditional fullback, and it's pretty straightforward how this works. We're going to try and seal here. This guard's going to pull. This guy's going to kick out the end man, and this guard will climb into the gap that's created by all of these down blocks. The rest of these guys are just straight down blocking on the side. We want to cave in this side of the defensive front, just get them all to go this way. A little awkward having Jared Verse on this video in a Rams jersey. That's a story for another day, but we want to just cave in this side to create more space for this kick out right here, this pull into space. You'll see this as we roll the tape. So here we go. We got the puller coming across. We've got the tight end man kicking out. We've got a double team on Verse coming. Doing a nice job just caving this in. It's going to make it so much easier as we cave in Jared Verse to run this power. So here comes the kick out here. Kick out happens. We're going to climb to the second level. Spates does an awfully nice job of scraping across the formation, reading power to get closer to this and make it a little bit more of a jumbled mess. Because the unfortunate part is the puller ends up tripping on this play. But the fact that, it's a heads-up play from this blocker, be like, all right, I've lost my double team. Let me just go find someone to block, kind of what you want to do. And then Gibbs ends up making this a pretty nice run. Thing about power, it can get really muddy here. It's why I wanted to show a guy actually falling over. Because there's so many bodies moving, even with moving Verse, when a linebacker reads it quickly enough, can get downhill. And then this edge can close the gap. He wants to try and constrict this rushing lane as much as possible, not waiting to get kicked out, but attacking that kick out block to constrict that rushing lane as well. And man, I think is that Landman. I got to give him credit because he throws his face. He throws his face into that kick out block. So I wanted to show this because it's actually not the prettiest way to run power, but it is a good example of showing you how you can combat it, but also, how you can still get a pretty nice run out of it when you're shifty enough. For the running backs, it's typically pretty straightforward. You're just following the guard's butt through the hole. You want to stay patient enough. You don't want to outrun him. His entire thing is to climb to the second level. If this is blocked up cleanly, like let's say he gets blocked off here, and then we get a seal, and then it's just one-on-one with the guard and the linebacker, you can typically just read how this linebacker is being blocked and either break inside or outside based on how he is handling that block. Rams do an awfully nice job of handling power, but it's just Gibbs is very talented. Ends up making this a still pretty successful play, but hope this is a good lesson on power. Watch that guard. I mean, as far as an I formation power, you don't get to see a lot of these in the NFL anymore. It's a pretty damn good example of not just how it's run, but also how a defense can combat it by really focusing on trying to constrict that lane with the puller and the kick out block. A fun way to show it. Sometimes it doesn't go right. Kyle Shanahan loves to run some really, really unique stuff. And also my grandpa loves Christian McCaffrey. So I'm going to put Christian McCaffrey in this video. We're going to talk about counter here. And I'm sure a lot of you know what counter is, but it's, jab stepping with the running back and then coming across the formation, following a couple of blockers. We're trying to get the defense to flow off those initial running back steps. So the run's going to go this way, right? But we're going to have steps like we're going this way. And we're trying to get the linebackers, all the defenders, to get slightly out of position before bringing pullers across the formation into another hole. So kind of similar to power, but we're changing the flow. Now, there's so many different ways you can run this with backside players. It's typically backside players coming across the formation. You can have a guard and tackle. It's called GT counter. So G for guard, T for tackle, where I know typically if GT, you're kicking out the end with the guard, and then you're climbing up with the tackle on counter. You can run GY counter, where the guard's coming to kick out, and then the tight end or the Y is coming across and filling. But there really are just a ton of different variations on how you can run counter. And I really wanted to show this one because Kyle Shanahan is a true sicko, and we're going to run, I think it would be called FY counter, depending on what you want to call your fullback, because we have use check here. Technically not coming across the formation, but the concept is still the same. We're going to motion him a little bit, then he's going to come back out and kick out. And then we're going to have George Kittle climb into the second level. So some similar concepts to power, but we're typically adding another puller across the formation instead. We're changing the footwork to get the defense to flow over and then redirecting that path for the running back. The running back's path, really straightforward too, is just up. Typically, it's described as up the hash. You want to run the counter on a hash, usually, typically. It's following the pullers, but it's typically just considered up the hash on counter. Rest of the blocks are a lot like power, where we're just down blocking, down blocking, down blocking, down blocking, and then adding these pullers. This variation is really fun. Again, watch use check. We're going to use him. Fake that motion. Another way to get the flow of the defense with counter. We talked about counter trying to flow the defense over. That motion's going to do the exact same thing with the eyes of the defense. That combined with McCaffrey's first step. The fact that we're doing this mid-motion is really interesting. I just really like the way they're running this counter, because then Juszczyk's boarding the motion, then he's getting into this counter concept. He's going to kick out, seal off. Kittle's going to climb into the second level and get that defender, and then McCaffrey's just going to read off it. Typically, you want to follow the guy going into the second level's butt, which is what McCaffrey's doing. He's following Kittle. Ends up being a different seal here than you're typically used to because of the guard, so he's going to read off of that, and then he's just going to get north-south. Really fun play. I just love the motion off of this. It's a really unique way to run counter, and does a nice job feeling it. Watch his footsteps, too, initially on this. McCaffrey's, he's taking that like hesitation first step, let the blocks develop, and then you're working back up. And then, yeah, you can see his path, his track is literally the hash down the line of scrimmage, then reading off of it. And then McCaffrey obviously has the vision. He's a no-nonsense north-south runner at times. I could have shown an I formation counter or just something more standard, but I saw this one from Shanahan. Not only do we teach you a little bit about counter, but we just see a variation off of it with, just a classic Shanahan who's just a sicko and thinks of stuff like this. I really enjoyed this play, and I saw it. I was like, I can't not put this in the video. It's too fun not to share. Figured I'd show you also a more standard version of counter. This is going to be GY. So what does that mean? Guard, yes, and then tight end. So guard's going to kick out the end man right here, and then we're going to climb second level with the tight end, or the Y, and then we're going to focus on down blocks to create that gap, hopefully climb and take out this linebacker. You can see, too, off the footwork where this backside linebacker, originally he thinks he's play side, is filling quickly. Then he realizes, oh, snap, it's a counter. I got to work back across. Gets himself into muddy waters there because of it. Ends up getting sealed off by this lineman. Don't want that. But watch this develop with the guard and tight end. And then the track that Kyren Williams takes, just again, straight up the hash, get north-south. Wishes he cuts that inside off Devontae Adams' block upfield instead of running into him, but still a great play. His footwork to pause on that counter step. We pause it right there, let the blocks develop, then get down that track. Really like counter, man. Can be really, really effective when it's blocked up correctly. And love how it can fool the defense. Just wanted to show you a more traditional version of counter as well. We're going to talk about trap next, and I couldn't find a good example of wham. I dove through like 200 different run plays. Wham and trap are similar, and I'll explain it in a second. But I thought it was fitting to use Ben Johnson. For all the talk about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson's relationship, Ben Johnson's bread and butter is drawing up run game. This is a really fun example of trap against the Eagles. Trap is essentially leaving a place side defensive tackle unblocked so that they can get caught on a trap block. Throws them off guard, and how this is going to work, we're going to leave this guy unblocked. So you can see here, we're going to, instead of blocking him with this guard, he's going to climb up and immediately get to the second level. We're going to climb with the center and seal off this, and then 73 is going to come across the formation and trap this. And what this should do is create a very natural rush lane that's a pretty straightforward one for the running back to just take and hammer home. Especially when you're dealing with a defensive line that's not prepared for it, gets caught off guard. This is not something you want to keep running, because once a defensive line knows how to, be ready for it, see it coming, it can, kind of blow up in your face. But when you can catch them off guard with it from time to time, man, it can create an effective seal. So as we go here, initial steps here, he's just going, he's like, oh man, I slanted inside so well, they're not going to get to me. Gets his head turned around a little too late, not in a stance to take on a block. Not a wide base, 1 foot in the air. He completely gets washed out of this play. Watch how it just creates such a natural seal on this play. And 62 does an okay job climbing, getting to the linebacker. The linebacker does peel off and make the tackle. But by the time he makes that tackle, I mean, shoot, it's a 10 plus yard run. I love a good trap, man, because it can really catch that defensive tackle off guard. And it's a really straightforward run for, running backs. It can look a little funky at first as far as your vision goes, but when you know what to look for and what to follow, and then you can just go in that decisively, it can create some really nice, successful runs. Again, not something I would want to run constantly once those defensive tackles know it's coming, but when you can catch them unawares like this and seal that off like that, it can be a really nice staple to your run game. That's awfully fun to run. Wham is a very similar concept in that. To describe it's basically a tight end doing the trap block. So just ignore a lot of things that I'm about to explain, but like if we just left this for some reason, if we were running this way and left this guy unblocked and he's coming this way, and then we just sealed off here and climbed here, that's what a wham block would be. It's very similar to a trap, but just utilizing a tight end or a skill player instead. Last play of the day is pin and pull. This is going to be a pin and pull toss to the right side. Pin and pull is typically a pin down block, so trying to seal off here by this wide receiver, and then allow pullers to get out in space. So in this instance, we're going to crack down on this edge with a wide receiver, and we're going to pull our tackle and our tight end on an outside run in space, just to have lead blockers on the outside, because when this is run effectively, you get numbers on the perimeter. We're going to have three. We're going to have these three right here on theoretically two defenders right here, because this guy will be sealed off. That's what we want from a pin and pull. It's another gap scheme run. It's more of just an outside. So you can see it as we run it, pinned down by the wide receiver, does an awfully nice job sealing that edge off, and then suddenly we have numbers in space, right? Penei Sewell is going to get this guy. Our tight end is going to get this guy. Only threat right now, if those are blocked up correctly, is a safety hauling butt across the formation who is eventually going to get there, but not in enough time, ends up being a big run because of it. I like pin and pulls. The Packers really liked to run these a couple of years ago. I think with the Aaron Jones era especially, just to really emphasize good blocking wide receivers and athletic offensive linemen who can get into space. Typically what you want here. A pin and pull cannot really work if a wide receiver can't block, because if this play gets blown up right here, the play is kind of dead to rights immediately. So you got to have receivers willing to get their nose dirty, and then the athletes get in space on pin and pull to make this an effective run concept. And that's all the runs that we have today. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun for me to go and look through different plays and explain these different kind of run concepts to you guys. So let me know in the comments again if you liked this video, if you want to see more, what kind of classroom videos you want to see this summer. We'll make sure to add a few more. So thank you. Thank you for watching today's episode. I know it's a big departure from what we typically do, but I hope you enjoyed it. And again, send it to your friends or loved ones that are trying to learn more about football. That's what this channel is all about. We're always talk about the positive, try to just teach you a bit more about the game. And so I know for some people watching this, it might be a bit basic, but if you enjoyed this, let me know. Again, send it to friends, and we'll be back. Going to talk about an undrafted player for the Packers I'm kind of interested in after watching him. And then we're going to talk about Ahmad Hardy to end the week. So plenty of content coming. Wide receivers next week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.